Wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna
Good
talk.
evening and welcome. It's Talk to Solomon time. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Stan's wingman, Chief Steve Davis.
And also flying the other wing is Brent Johnson from south of the border. Brent, how are you? Is Brent there?
Yes, I am. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't have the video feed, so I didn't know that the show had started. Apologies for that.
No
I'm here,
problem.
and I'm glad to be here. It's a pleasure, as always, Stan.
Thanks, Brent. Now, our guest of honor, the one and only but never lonely, Larry Pratt, the executive director of the Don't Shoot Me in the Butt, Gun Owners of America. Larry, I understand you're mobile.
I am indeed. It's good to be with you all.
Well, you know, the Newsday has your name written all over it. Almost every other story has something to do with this gun grab by the government. Of course, the State of the Union going on tonight, or should I say the state of malarkey. But we do have, I sent you a story. I don't know if you read it from Jessica. Did you have a chance to peruse that?
I haven't looked at a whole bunch of email.
All right, well, let me just, I'm going to read this real quickly, and then you can comment on it. Jessica Bradshaw, who ran for Congress, and you know her well, she got this from a friend, and it comes from a gun dealer in Texas. We traveled to a meeting of the Texas State Rifle Association for industry meetings concerning the shortages. Here's what we were told. Smith & Wesson is running at full capacity, making 300-plus guns per day, mainly M&P pistols. They're unable to produce any more guns to help with the shortage. Ruger plans to increase from 75% to 100% in the next 90 days. FNH is moving from 50% to 75% by February 1st and 100% by March 1st. Remington is maxed out. Armalite is maxed out. DPMS can't get enough parts to produce any more product. Colt, production runs increasing weekly, bottlenecked by bolt carriers. LWRC, making only black guns, running at full capacity, can't get enough gun quality steel to make barrels. Springfield Armory, only company who can meet demand but are running 30 to 45 days behind. Ammo, every caliber is now allocated. Nationwide shortage of all calibers over the next 9 months. All plants are producing as much ammo as possible with over 1 billion rounds produced weekly. Most is military, followed by LE, and civilians are third in line. Magpul is behind 1 million mags. Do not expect any large quantities of Magpul anytime soon. Reloaders. All Remington, Winchester, CCI, and Federal primers are going to ammo first. There are no extras for reloading. It could be 6 to 9 months before things get caught up. They don't know when they'll be getting anything back in stock from magazines to rifles and pistols. These are the gun stores. Manufacturers were running full bore, but couldn't come close to keeping up with market demand. It wasn't just AR-15s, the AK pattern rifles, the M1As, and the FALs that were sold out. It really hit me when I realized that World War era M1 Garands, M1 carbines, Enfield 303s were gone, along with every last shell. The ubiquitous Mosin Nagants, of which every gun store almost usually had 10 or 20, they were gone. So was their ammo. Every weapon of military design within the past 100 years is gone. This isn't a society stocking up on certain guns because they fear they may be banned. This is a society preparing for war. So, at any rate, did we lose Larry? All right, we'll just call him right back. At any rate, I'll start with you, Steve. Is this chilling or what?
Well, it's very chilling, but it's based on the fact that the left wants to take all of our guns away. So they have this fictitious story that they're trying to say it's about safety, about saving lives, when in reality, it's only about taking our guns away. And everyone knows that. They know it, we know it, everyone knows it.
All right, now I think we have Larry back. Larry, did you hear most of that?
Yes, I did. I was just passing the Pentagon when I dropped you. They have some equipment there that doesn't do as much good on cell phones. So anyway, yes, I was commenting that the president seems to have developed one part of his stimulus package that has really worked, and it hasn't cost the taxpayer a nickel.
Well, they say there's been 63 million guns purchased since Obama was elected. I think there's been another 63 million since he was reelected.
Every manufacturer I hear of is 6 to 9 months behind, and that's with working 24/7. It is an amazing business to be in right now, and they do give credit to the president. They understand it wasn't, of course, his intent, but nevertheless, it's been the result. And this is I just wish I had the money to invest in almost any firearms company before Obama was elected, because I'd be doing very well now as a result.
Now, in that article, it mentions 1 billion rounds per week. We hear about, Homeland Security buying a couple of million, 3 million. That's 1 billion a week. That's a hell of a lot of rounds.
Yes, it is, and there's no good explanation, particularly when they're buying, when the government is buying, not the armor ammunition that you are required under international law to use. They're buying hollow point and probably even some ammunition that is illegal to use in war and could only be used against you and me.
All right, let me get to others on the case here, Chief.
Well, again, the left, they have a plan to take all of our guns away. And this talk about gun safety, saving lives, it's all for the kids, is a bunch of, like you said, malarkey. I think you said malarkey. But if the Republicans vote to enact any more gun legislation, all they're doing is they're hampering freedom and helping the left take away our guns. So this talk about background checks or anything else is not going to save anybody's lives or help anybody else. It's only going to take away some more of our rights and help the left take our guns away.
If we could just get the government to follow the law, that would do a lot. Brent?
No, I think, Chief, you're spot on.
You know my attitude, and Larry knows my attitude for so long. The spirit of the Second Amendment, the intent of the founders was that, and you have to remember what was going on back then, it was about protecting ourselves primarily from tyrannical government. Everything else is secondary, including protecting our own homes from burglars and such. Okay, it was about protecting us from government. And taking that as the framework for the discussion, the people should have, and do have, the right to have any arms, any firearms that the government has. If the government has AK-47s, we should be able to have AK-47s to defend ourselves from the government. Now, people will always come in when I say this, and they'll say, oh, so do you think you should be able to have a nuclear bomb? And they go to the ultimate extreme to try and disprove that whole principle. And, that's just absurd. The idea, should everybody have a nuclear bomb? No. Okay. But, as long as government is going to have these semi-automatic and automatic firearms, as long as government has the potential to use them, which historically is what happens, against the people, then people indeed need to be armed, and armed with whatever weapons they can get, either legally or illegally on the black market, that will allow them to defend themselves from the government.
All right, Larry, go ahead.
Here.
Larry, go ahead.
Spot on. That is not often heard, but that is exactly what the Second Amendment is all about. And the government, of course, doesn't like to hear us talk that way. But what I don't like to hear is the government not liking to hear us talk that way. They want to try to talk us out of understanding what the Second Amendment is all about. It tells me the government really doesn't want to be subjected to any limits on their power, the exercise of their power whatsoever. That's a very dangerous sign. And when somebody says, well, why do you want an AR-15? Are you afraid of your government? No. The answer should be, not as long as I have my AR-15. Look, they'll say, well, what can you do against the mighty United States Army with all of their technology and armor? Well, look how long this rogue cop lasted with every cop in Los Angeles looking for him. They weren't providing any public service whatsoever. They were all looking for one guy. And what did it take them, about a week for one guy?
Well,
sounds to me like the government will have their hands full if they got us all riled up against them.
Yeah, more than a little. And besides, the members of the military are our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and sons and daughters. And I'm not so sure. And by the way, this has happened in Egypt, where that piece of garbage, that Muslim moron, have I called him enough names? All right.
No.
That Yehu ordered the army to shoot civilians. The army told him to pack sand.
Exactly. And I think that would happen in this country. There'd be only a very small percentage of military and police that would follow such an obnoxious order. And in fact, the officer that would give such an order better be trembling in his boots.
Well, I would hope so. Now, by the way,
I have a comment on that, actually. Several years ago, the San Diego Police Association conducted a survey among police in California, throughout California. There were 50 questions in the survey. Most of them had to do with crime and police. But the last question, completely and totally different than all the others, was if you were given an order to take the guns out of the hands of the people, law-abiding people, would you obey? Now, at the time, and this was in 1998, I think, at the time, there was a relatively small percentage. I mean, it was a large percentage from my perspective, something like 27% said that they would. But ever since then, it's been like 15 years since then, they do regularly, they do these tests. They ask these types of questions. And what I believe they're doing is trying to determine what the military would do, what the police would do in that situation. And unfortunately, from what I understand, the percentage is going up quite a bit over the years. Now, these surveys were conducted among the police, and I understand the military are somewhat different, but the way they've been recruiting, you're getting more people who are willing to follow orders rather than people who are willing to disobey orders in order to defend the Constitution. And so I'm really concerned that perhaps are a lot higher numbers, the percentages are a lot higher than you might think, Larry, in terms of who might try and take the guns out of the hands of the American people. I don't think that we should get blinded by our faith in what these military and police are supposed to do in terms of protecting our rights.
I think your point
I think it's a
well
real concern.
made, Brent, because I believe that they're also removing top people, generals, admirals, for the same reason, that those that won't blindly follow this pretender, they're getting rid of them, and they're replacing them with those who put their career ahead of their oath and their patriotism.
Well, that's a risk, but the fact of the matter is we are an armed people, and even guys that might be inclined to do something unconstitutional would have to be aware that this isn't England. This is not going to be a walk in the park. And so even if not for very elegant reasons, if only for fear of their own life, I'm doubtful that we're going to see that many who actually would be willing to go down the street and knock on the doors and collect the guns. They did that after Katrina, and they got away with it that time because I don't think people were mentally prepared for the idea that somebody in authority would actually do something that horrendous. Now that it's happened, now that we know that even in a place like Louisiana, something like that has happened, where the government made a list of those who had bought guns, they made it up from the stores, and then they just went and collected them all in the whole New Orleans area. Well, they got the first one free. I don't think they're going to get the second one free.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, by the way, you mentioned this piece of crap, this guy that thought everyone was against him because of his race. He was a moron. Did they actually kill him or capture him or what?
Well, I don't know what has been the outcome. I know that there was a firefight that started even while I was up on the hill.
Right. There were two officers injured, and they have him cornered in a cabin of some sort, but to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't been resolved. At least it wasn't when we went to air.
Well, my guess is he's not going to end the day alive.
I hope.
And that's probably just as well. But I think he's a wake-up call to those who so smugly think that it's going to be that easy for the police. Here you had nobody was getting police protection, from what I'm told, in Los Angeles. They were all looking for this guy, and the reports were, oh, yeah, maybe up on Bear Mountain, and he may have made it to the Mexican border. We're looking everywhere. Well, that's to say they didn't have the slightest clue where the guy was. That's pretty impressive that one guy can evade that many people for that long.
And the point is well made. And we've had others. The guy that blew up the abortion clinic that they didn't find for several months, and they were all searching for him too.
Yeah, exactly.
Luis Gutierrez has said we also need to look at handguns. He let the cat a little bit out of the bag. Chief?
Well, again, I'm just going to emphasize that the left, their plan is to take all of our guns away. And so, any representative, any senator, any congressman that votes for any type of more gun legislation, including background checks, is voting just to take away our rights. And the words of the Second Amendment say shall not be infringed totally. But I want to talk about the police just a little bit here. Their tactic will be this. Their tactic will be, first of all, we'll use the National Defense Authorization Act. We'll identify someone as a terrorist, go arrest them, get their guns. We'll pinpoint some people we think are very important with lots of guns and take them in. Also, the police, they don't look at the Constitution at all. They look at the Supreme Court and other judges and prosecutors. If a prosecutor says it's okay to go, they're going to go in and get the guns. So they're going to have some other type of ongoings until they realize what really is happening. So I believe there will be some kind of gun confiscations until most of the police figure out, hey, they're using us as patsies to violate the Second Amendment.
Well, and I don't think it's just a question of until they're using us as patsies. The police are not going to come to that conclusion ever. I think until there is an active and valid way to hold cops accountable for violating the Constitution. None of this hiding behind the union rules. None of this hiding behind any kind of government immunity because I was only following orders. You violate the Constitution, you have committed a high crime and misdemeanor against the people, against 300 million people if you do it to one of them. And you will go to prison. You will lose your retirement fund. You may get the death penalty if you killed somebody. Until that happens, and unless that happens, these people have absolutely no reason to obey the Constitution because there's no punishment for disobeying it.
All right, I got a bunch of stories I want to cover, and they're all good comments. Let me just give you a couple of them. Biden said legitimate news media will help in the push for gun control. Larry.
I'm sorry that what the media is doing to foster gun control.
No, Biden said the legitimate media will help push for gun control, meaning the mainstream media, the government-controlled media.
The Gaffinator has spoken again. He's said what everybody knows, but you're not supposed to say. And that's what they've been doing. It's not that they will be doing that. They have been doing that. And I think that's in part why their numbers, the so-called, as he says, legitimate media, their numbers, their viewers are declining almost daily, and it's shows like we're doing right now, where in the aggregate, the majority of the people are now getting their news, and that really torques the media. It's not right. When I went to school, nobody told me it would be like this, where these unprofessionals in their pajamas in their living room are purveyors of news. Well, yeah, to a certain extent, that's probably what the new media is like. But I also know that they're increasingly being treated as part of the quote-unquote legitimate media. I was in a congresswoman's office this afternoon, and he had a series of media come through and do interviews, and they were from the ABC and CNN, but they were also from Breitbart and some of the other new media, and they were treated on an equal footing, and that's got to just really tick off the liberal media.
Women have increased their ownership of guns by 50% in the last decade. I think that's understated. I know that every responsible woman who can add 1 and 1 and values her safety and her children's safety now has come to realization. My daughter, and we've always had guns in our family, but my daughter just said, and her husband, they didn't want to have any guns. Whoop, they both got permits, they both got guns.
Uh-huh. I think that that has been the president's successful stimulus program. His talk about transforming America, about growing government, about hurting business, hurting his enemies, that's alarmed people. And the fact that he was able to get reelected, I think, has put concerns that people have into overdrive. And now there's as we've all seen, a run on guns and ammunition that's just kind of breathtaking. Who can imagine? Who could have imagined that something like this would happen? And it's not a spike. It's a steady, non-stop desire on the part of the American people. I was talking with a fellow that is going to be offering a gun to women, 1,000 guns made by a manufacturer, 9mm, and it's he only has 5 available. Well, the promoter of this program wanted to get 1,000, and the guy said, "Well, I'm 6 to 9 months behind right now." And so even when we want to have a promotion and give guns to women, draw attention to the fact that women need these guns, we're not going to be able to get them any better than anybody else.
One last thing while we still have a minute here, and then I'll get everyone else involved. 2 situations. In California, they're trying to pass a bill that would mandate that you have to have liability insurance if you own a gun, which seems to me would be an infringement. And secondly, in Colorado, they're saying, hey, if you create a gun-free zone, whether you're a politician or you're a school or you're a store, then you assume a liability, and if someone gets hurt or killed, you're going to be liable. I like the second.
That's good. That is the way it should be. And I think it's going to clarify the thinking of many establishments that so facilely put up a sign, no guns. If they realize that I could get sued for that, right now they're worried about what happens if a good guy pulls a gun in self-defense and shoots a third person, a third party. Well, his lawyers explained it that way to him. And he said, oh, well, then I'll just post no guns, and that will remove my liability. Now they're beginning to realize it's not going to be that easy, and you'd better make it so people can defend themselves, or you could just drown in lawsuits.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to the largest mall owned by one of America's largest, if not largest, shopping center owners, carrying a firearm, which I had a concealed permit for, on my hip in full view. Walked into this mall. Most people didn't pay attention, but one of the security guards came up and said, you can't carry a gun here. I said, since when? They said, well, we posted a sign. I said, I didn't see a sign. They said, well, we're going to post a sign. I said, well, then I may consider it. But anyway, I sat down to eat. Then the sergeant came, then the lieutenant, then the major, then the general, then the admiral. And before long, I had like every member of the security there. And at the time I was on the radio, and I probably had a crowd of about 80 people that were saying, you need help, Solomon? I said, not yet. So all these people were, talking to me, but nervously looking over their shoulder. And I said, look, are you telling me that you're guaranteeing my safety in this mall, that if I'm unable to defend myself, you're guaranteeing my safety? The guy said, good. No. I said, then get out of my face. You're ruining my dinner. And you know what they did? They walked away.
Yep,
They
you
walked away.
explained it in terms they could understand. And I think that's the way it needs to be presented. Absolutely right.
All right, let's get to the panel. Chief.
Well, you mentioned women before, and I think it's very important. We've had a couple of stories recently where women used guns to defend themselves, and the women were very vocal about the Second Amendment and their rights with the Second Amendment. They were very, very good describing that they needed a gun they could handle, any type of gun, and that no one should dictate to them what kind of gun they should or could have to protect themselves and their family and their
Or
homes.
how many rounds?
Or how many rounds? Everything's included in that story. But also, gun ownership and these gun laws, it's all political. It's a political agenda right now. And I've noticed that the men on the right, the men in the GOP, I want to say on the right, the men in the GOP have become wimps about this whole issue. And the women have got more guts than the men. And so with all of this, I want to commend the women for what they're doing, because right now they're saving this issue with their stories and their boldness. But I want to say to the men, hey, let's go man up, do your job, and fight for the Second Amendment.
If you love your wife, if you love your mom, if you love your sister, if you love your daughter, if you love your granddaughter, you want them to be in a position to defend themselves against some thug. We just had a beautiful young woman killed in Chicago, shot in a crossfire. I don't think she was the target, but someone in her group was mistaken for a gang member, allegedly. And now they're going to bring victims from Chicago to the State of the Union address to say, hey, we need to do something about guns. Well, hell, they got every gun control law you can imagine in Chicago, which makes it safe for the thugs and not safe for the citizens. Larry?
Yeah, it is such an obvious point that the city with the toughest gun control is the murder capital of our country, and yet these are the people that we turn to or the media turns to for the wisdom on what kind of legislation we need to make us safe. Good grief, they want to turn the country into Chicago. It's absolutely, it makes you wonder. Some of them have to have another agenda. Not all of them can be that stupid. Some of them obviously want us disarmed for other reasons than quote-unquote safety.
All right, Larry, give folks a place to get your updates.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Give them the website to get the updates.
Yes. You can find us at gunowners.org, and if you go to gunowners.org, please take advantage of the free subscription to our legislative action alerts. It's the way we keep the heat on the Congress and make it easy for people to send off an email to their member of Congress about current Second Amendment issues, and it's the one thing that really seems to get their attention.
Larry Pratt, keep up the great work. Have you guys reached 1 million yet of members?
We have seen quite an increase in numbers. We, I suppose, should be thankful to Piers Morgan for his great work in our behalf.
Yeah, well, Piers Morgan actually had a part-time job as a suppository, so I'm not sure exactly what he did for you. But we'll leave it at that point. Thank you so much for being with us. Folks, we'll be back shortly with more right here on Talk to Solomon.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Dan.
Bye, buddy. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey, the backup people. I like to eat. Do you like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store. or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get Supercolloidal Silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.